The medical bay of the Wandering Star hummed with the quiet efficiency of recycled air and monitoring equipment. Mira sat cross-legged on the floor, her human frame looking almost comically oversized next to the small, furry bundle curled against her knee. Pico whimpered, his tricolored fur matted around the swollen joint of his hind leg. The young Felisari had taken a tumble during what the pack called pounce training, a ritual as sacred to their species as breathing. Now, his amber eyes were wet with pain, and his tiny ears lay flat against his skull. "Easy there, little one," Mira murmured, reaching into the medical kit she'd requisitioned from storage. Her fingers closed around the crinkle of a cold pack, the kind humans had used for centuries. Simple chemistry, really. Squeeze, shake, apply. Nothing fancy about it. The Felisari were a proud species. Descended from apex predators on a world where weakness meant death, they'd carried that philosophy into the stars. Their ships prowled the trade routes. Their warriors were legendary. Their honor code was inscribed in claw marks on 100 diplomatic treaties. They did not, as a rule, show vulnerability. Mira activated the pack with a sharp crack. The chemical reaction began immediately, ice crystals forming as the temperature plummeted. She wrapped it carefully in a cloth. Humans had learned long ago that direct application could damage tissue, and gently pressed it against Pico's swollen leg. The cub's reaction was immediate and dramatic. His eyes went wide. His ears shot upright. A sound emerged from his throat that Mira could only describe as a chirp of absolute bewilderment. "What sorcery?" Pico began, his translator struggling with the kit language he still sometimes slipped into when startled. "It's just cold," Mira explained, adjusting the pack to cover the injury more completely. "The low temperature reduces inflammation and numbs the pain. Old trick from Earth. We used to use actual ice before we figured out how to make it portable." Pico stared at her with the intensity only a young predator could muster. "Cold helps. Cold helps," Mira confirmed. She checked the chronometer on her wrist. "Keep it on for about 15 minutes, then we'll take a break. Don't want to damage the tissue." The medical bay door slid open with a soft hiss. Mira didn't need to look up to know who it was. The scent gave them away. Felisari always smelled faintly of the sun-warmed grass from their homeworld, an evolutionary remnant from when they'd hunted in the tall plains. Pack leader Vorash stood in the doorway, his massive frame filling the space. His midnight black fur was immaculate, every whisker in place, every claw retracted into perfect dignity. Behind him clustered a dozen more Felisari, ranging from elders with graying muzzles to cubs barely older than Pico. The young one cried out, Vorash said, his deep voice carrying the weight of command. "We came to," he stopped, his golden eyes fixed on the ice pack pressed against Pico's leg. His ears swiveled forward. His tail, which had been held in the proud curve of pack leadership, went perfectly still. "What," he said slowly, "is that?" "An ice pack," Mira replied, keeping her tone casual. She'd learned that Felisari respected directness. Pico hurt his leg. The cold reduces swelling and pain. Vorash took a step forward. Then another. The pack parted to let him through, but Mira noticed they were all staring at the ice pack with the same transfixed expression, like it was a theological mystery wrapped in a medical puzzle. "Cold," Vorash repeated. "You use cold to heal?" "We use it to treat injuries, yes. It's not exactly healing, but it helps the body heal itself faster." One of the elders, Mira recognized her as Shara, the pack's physician, pushed forward. Her whiskers were trembling. "Show me," she demanded. Mira carefully removed the pack from Pico's leg. The swelling had already decreased noticeably. She held out the pack, letting Shara sniff it, examine it, poke it with one careful claw. "It's just chemicals and water," Mira explained. "When you break the inner seal, they react and create cold. Nothing complicated." "Nothing complicated," Shara echoed faintly. She looked at Pico. "How does the leg feel?" "Puffy," Pico said immediately. The word came out in kit speak, then translated awkwardly. "I mean better. Less pain. But also puffy?" "Not puffy. Strange. The numbness," Mira supplied. "That's the cold affecting the nerve endings. It'll wear off." Vorash sat down. It was an uncharacteristic gesture. Pack leaders stood, always stood, to maintain dominance and awareness. But he sat, his tail curling around his feet, and stared at Mira with an expression she couldn't quite read. "How long?" he asked quietly. Have humans known this technique? Mira shrugged. Thousands of years? Maybe more? It's pretty basic first aid. Thousands of years, Vorash repeated. He looked at Shara. The physician's ears were flat against her skull, not in anger, but in what Mira had learned to recognize as profound cognitive dissonance. We tell our cubs to endure, Shara whispered. Pain is temporary. Weakness is forever. We have them walk on broken bones to prove their strength. She stopped. Her claws flexed and retracted. Flexed and retracted. You have medicine that stops pain, Vorash said to Mira. And you use it. Of course we use it, Mira said, genuinely confused now. Why wouldn't we? Pain is just a signal. Once you know something's wrong, there's no benefit to suffering through it. No benefit to suffering, Vorash murmured. He stood abruptly, his full height, making even Mira crane her neck. Pack physician Shara, you will learn this technique. You will learn all human healing techniques that reduce suffering. But pack leader, the traditions are traditions. Vorash cut her off, his voice sharp. Not laws of physics. If humans found a better way thousands of years ago, then we are thousands of years behind. He looked down at Pico, who was experimentally flexing his leg, his expression still caught between pain and wonder. And I will not have our cubs suffer because we were too proud to learn. The pronouncement rippled through the assembled Felisari. Mira could see the conflict in their faces, the instinct to maintain their ways warring with the evidence literally sitting in front of them. Pico's leg was visibly better. The cub was purring softly, a sound of contentment they rarely let others hear. Over the following weeks, words spread through the ship. The human had made Pico Puffy, the kitspeak word that somehow captured both the numbness and the strange relief better than any adult translation could manage. Other Felisari, nursing their own hidden injuries, began appearing at Myra's door. A twisted ankle here, bruised ribs there. The kinds of wounds warriors bore in silence. Mira treated them all with ice packs, compression, elevation, the basics of rice protocol that human athletes had perfected centuries ago. And each time, she saw the same expression of wonder. It became a badge of honor, in a strange way. I have been made puffy by the human, transformed from admission of weakness to statement of wisdom. The elders still told stories of enduring pain, but now they added new tales, of the smart hunter who treated their wounds and returned to the hunt stronger. Vorash instituted mandatory first aid training for the entire pack, with Mira as the primary instructor. She stood in the cargo bay, surrounded by fierce predators, and taught them how to make cold packs, how to wrap sprains, how to recognize concussions. Pain is data, she told them, echoing what her own instructors had taught her in academy. Once you've received the data, acknowledge it. Then do what needs to be done. Sometimes that's pushing through. Sometimes that's treating it and resting. One evening, Mira found Vorash in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. She approached quietly. Humans could be quiet when they wanted to be, another thing that surprised the Felisari. We thought we were strong, Vorash said without turning. We thought suffering made us superior. You are strong, Mira corrected gently. You're also learning. That's stronger. Vorash's tail swished once, a sign of acknowledgement. Pico asks for you constantly. Wants to show you his leg is healed. Wants to be made puffy again even though he's not injured. Mira laughed. I'll visit him tomorrow. He started a collection, Vorash added, and now there was amusement in his voice. Of cold packs. Like trophies. The other cubs are jealous. As Mira returned to her quarters that night, she passed groups of Felisari, their conversations mixing their native tongue with borrowed human medical terms. They were adapting, learning, growing, not despite their strength, but because of it. Humanity had many gifts to offer the galaxy. Advanced weapons, faster engines, diplomatic solutions to impossible problems. But sometimes, the greatest gift was the simplest, the knowledge that caring for yourself wasn't weakness, that it was wisdom. And in the cargo bay, wrapped carefully in protective cloth, a dozen ice packs waited in storage, ready to make anyone who needed it just a little bit puffy.